Anyway, we'll talk a little bit about your property tax bill. I bet you got one. Bet you got a new one. Did you get a new property tax bill? Why don't you put that up on the... there's my property tax bill. Gosh, I'd love it. I get it every year. And then I get to write checks. It's so much fun. But I think what the biggest thing about it is we always talk about what the difference in the pieces of the bill are. And so here you can see on the top where it says general tax levy. Sometimes you hear people talk about that as the ad valorem tax. That is the percentage of your assessed value of your home. Okay. Now I've been in that house since 1965.
How much did you buy it for? Because
it said it right. $16,800. But I did do an add-on on the house and added 242 square feet. And when I added 240 square feet, it added $57,000 to my assessed valuation. Isn't that amazing? Anyhow, the voted indebtedness section of this is all those things that are put on the ballot that you voted yes on, or maybe you voted no on, but there were more people that voted yes than no. So these are school bonds, these are community college bonds, or any other item that you vote to put yourself in debt with. But the most interesting part is the direct assessments. And the direct assessments normally relate to things that are Proposition 218 assessment districts. And so if you look at it, you'll see that we have two county park district items on our property tax bill. You'll see the one that says proposed Measure A, but Measure A passed. And if you recall, we went back and we talked about this before when there was discussions about what the Measure A money was going to be spent for. And in one case, you have the Park District, and the Park District is there to fund places like Hart Park, which is the only county regional park we have in our area. And the other one was a measure that, if you recall, every other area in Los Angeles County came and participated in a needs assessment and talked about where they wanted the money spent. Our city decided not to participate. And if you remember, we went through months of trying to get the county out here to tell us what was going on. And just before we voted, they came out here and told us that most of the money is going elsewhere because we're so wonderful that we didn't need it. The sewer and water treatment part of your tax bill, at least in mine, is probably the largest 218 assessment that I have, and it's in multiple parts. So you have to understand that. The SCV Sand District, which is the second big red line down, is the sanitation district that is implementing the chloride fix. That's putting in the reverse osmosis plant at the Valencia treatment plant so that they can reduce the composite water output of our two treatment plants to less than 100 milligrams per liter of salt. But the actual sewer lines are not owned by the sanitation district, and they are maintained by the county. That's the first line up there. So when people talk about that they have a sewer system going, well, it's both of those together. And then the third line down is the stormwater utility, and the reason why I included it with this is because it's also a measure of treating, or in this case, we're not treating it yet, but we're doing things to ensure that the water that goes into our stormwater drainage system will meet the requirements of the Regional Water Quality Board. And sometimes that we do things as interesting as street sweeping actually comes out of that amount, so as to keep the water that goes down into the river during the winter months cleaner. And then what's left over is vector control, which is the part of our city's efforts to keep the West Nile virus down, to go out and look at areas where there might be stagnant water, and the possibility of it becoming a breeding ground. Anybody that talks about, the next item down, anybody that talks about trauma centers, anybody says, well, you know, so many people are using our trauma centers and it raises our costs and all that kind of discussion, that's exactly what that is. That is our trauma center fund. It goes to, and the only trauma center we have in Santa Clarita is at Henry Mayo. So it goes to help that. Flood control, pretty obvious, is that whatever we do to maintain the properties to ensure that they don't flood. And a lot, the next one is I think very interesting, because many people, and even at one of the at the last election debates, someone talked about a contract with the fire department. We don't have a contract with the fire department. It's not like the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department is a contracted service for the city. We contract a certain percentage of the services to be directly here in the valley, and then we use parts of services outside the valley. However, for fire department, we are in an LA County fire district. So the city of Santa Clarita actually has no say about the fire department. They talk about the fact that they have a fire chief. Well, they don't really have one, but they have to name somebody, because by California law, you have each California city has to name a police chief and a fire chief. So when the captain of the sheriff's department, who we're contracting with, is down at City Hall, they'll talk about him as our police chief, but in fact that he is really responsible to, and the policies are set by Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. For the fire department, it's by the Los Angeles County Fire Department. Next one down is street lights. You might have remembered that we did talk about street lights a little bit. We talked about the fact that the city was looking to purchase a group of the street lights. And if you look at that number, which is $12.38, whenever you look at these numbers and you say, well, gee, that's just a small amount and small number, multiply it by 100,000, and that's how much they'll collect during the year. So it's about $1.2 million that goes into street lights. And actually, there's another $1 million that comes from the county that's not part of that. And we can go through some of those numbers again at a later time. And then, of course, the Open Space Preservation District, and that is a Proposition 218 assessment district that was voted in for the purpose of purchasing open space within 3 miles of the city boundaries. When it was originally defined, it was discussed that it was justified on the fact that every piece of property within the city of Santa Clarita is within 3 miles of a park or open space. And so they then drew a 3-mile circle around the city and said the city can buy any of that open space within that amount of area. And most of the open space that's been purchased has been purchased right here on the east side. So there you go. That's your property tax bill. I hope you enjoy it, and send out a couple of checks, and so we can all keep our houses and continue to enjoy Santa Clarita. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I recently did an analysis of my bill, specifically regarding the community college district. I don't know if you compared year to year, but the community college district has gone up tremendously. In fact, on my individual bill, the 0.43, I believe that was 0.29. That was 0.29 before. I actually went to the treasurer collector and had them calculate how did they come up with that factor of 0.043045. And Measure M makes up $18 of that 0.18 of 0.43. When we voted in Measure M, they projected that that was going to be $9.73 per $100,000 of valuation. That is double what they said it was going to be.
Okay. And
Measure E, they said it was going to be $15. That came in at $15.30, which is over what they projected we were going to pay. So don't believe any of these numbers that these bond issuers tell you that we're going to be paying on their bond issues. Now, I'm assuming you're in Hart District?
Yes.
Okay. So high school is Hart District, elementary school, that's Saugus, or is...
Sulphur Springs.
You're in Sulphur Springs? Okay, well, since Ken's here, I'm not going to talk. The special water, can you address... No, you were back there. You were there. Now, I believe that's Castaic Lake Water Agency, where it says special water 0.70, 0.07. Have you looked at that at all? Or?
No, but we could go through these.
Okay, because I look at that and it doesn't identify who special water is, but I can tell you that's hundreds of dollars on my bill. You're at 44.
Well, that's because you live in a grandiose mansion.
No.
And I live in this little house in
But you know what? I mean, I'm very skeptical of that special water deal because that's hundreds of, you can see what it compares, that's what, nearly double what the community college is.
Yeah, I think the point.
But the community college is going to be going up.
Yes, I think the point he's making, of course, is that these are rates that are put against your assessed valuation, and so and the one reason why he cringes when he asks me what I paid for the house is because this is a Proposition 13 house. So I've owned it since I bought it. I didn't own it then, but I bought it in late 1965, and we've been there ever since. And so the assessed value is low. We can look into this some more, and when it comes to Sulphur Springs, we could even invoke an expert.
No, I don't think Sulphur Springs is coming back.
All right. Okay, just a few highlights because I do have just a couple of minutes. I did want to show you the river rally because it had a really good picture of Rick. Okay, and this was our setup for the last river rally. I thought it was. We started trying to make it a little bit more informative. What it had was the agendas for all of our meetings in the year. So to talk to people and tell them, this is the kinds of things that we do. And I thought it was very interesting when Bill said that some people told him not to come here because we weren't very friendly. I think we're very friendly. But at the same time, we're not cheerleaders. Okay, and I think that when we ask people questions, they're realistic questions. They're questions that come from the community. We don't can them or do them in advance. We ask community members to come and ask them. And for me, if elected officials don't want to answer questions of the community, maybe they shouldn't be elected officials. So that's what we did. We talked about people would like to join it. And unfortunately, in this particular river rally, in the one we were at previous year, they actually routed all of the people through the tent. This year, the tent was off to the side, and only people that wanted to come in would come in. And so it was we had a lot fewer people. Also, what we did was, for the first time, was we actually had a video loop running on our laptop to give people an idea of what the meetings were. And here again, it just went through all the agendas for all the meetings. So we'll see what we were going to do next year. Dockweiler Lyons EIR came up again today at Otna, and so there are the Placerita Property Owners Association really is looking to see that intersection be off of Market Street. Instead of right now, at first it was proposed to go straight through Lyons. When you go down Lyons, you see that sign says this street's about to go through. Well, that was one of the plans. They did the EIR, and actually the EIR said the better ecological way to go would be to go out 13th Street. But if you look at the actual map, the map shows that Dockweiler will end, and if it made a left turn, it would go right down Market. And when we were at the meeting, the EIR folks didn't want to talk about that route because of the fact that the grading down Dockweiler had already been approved, and they wouldn't discuss anything that changed that grading, which I thought was kind of a lame excuse. But the Placerita property owners and the Placerita folks are very interested in that. Ugly solar panels in Canyon Country. You know that we've got those ugly solar panels. You know they're going to install some more. I've been to the council, and I've been to our planning director, and I've asked this simple question. What is the entitled footprint of that manufactured home park? And the answer I got was, I don't know. So, and they finally said they're going to go look for it. I mean, we've been talking about this since May. They said that they send someone out that looks at the permits to make sure they had the right permits. How could they tell if they had the right permit if they didn't even know where it was going to be? Tom Cole has now indicated that he's going to go look for them for me. He's put in a public records request with the state. We'll see how that goes, because if, in fact, those solar panels are on the property owner's property but not part of the entitlement, then it doesn't have a permit. We'll wait and see what happens. Eminent domain in Canyon Country, you know that right down the street, there's a question about the property that is going to be around the Canyon Country Community Center. I'm a little annoyed with the idea of using eminent domain because the Canyon Country Community Center does not need that property to survive. That was an expansion of the original plan. The community center will fit into the location. Without that, that was going to be a community garden and a parking lot, and I can't see taking property away from someone that's owned it since 1950. But we'll just wait and see. We don't know what's happening yet. Parking in Newhall is supposed to be on the City Council agenda at the next City Council meeting. They're going to make a recommendation for that. Remember, at one point in time, the Newhall was part of a redevelopment agency. When it was part of a redevelopment agency, they were counting on the state providing them all this funding to build things. Redevelopment agencies ended. They used the money that was left in the redevelopment agency to build the Newhall Library. When it came time and they gave Lemley a cash incentive to move in, they had not changed the zoning back, so the zoning said you could open a business in downtown Newhall. You didn't have to provide any parking. So the city had to provide the parking. And so $15.2 million to build that parking structure came out of general fund money. All right, so there you go. Plus an additional amount that they actually paid as an incentive to move. Now they're trying to decide how they're going to pay for the next parking structure. So some options on board were paid parking on Main Street, paid parking in the parking structure, a fee for new developers, a fee if you're expanding, and they came out with a survey which they only circulated to people within the Newhall area. Now, I got one because I'm a member of the Old Town Newhall Association, but I thought it was I thought that it was something that the general public should have been able to chime in on, because the money for that parking structure came out of general fund money, which affects us all. Okay, that's the same pocket of money that they're going to have to go after when they build the Canyon Country Community Center, when they talk about the Saugus Library, when they talk about the new sheriff's station. Those all comes out of that pot of money, and it's something that we all have to deal with. Lastly, Measure H in the Santa Clarita Homeless Shelter. If you were at the City Council meeting, what was it, two council meetings ago when they gave the property to the homeless shelter. When Measure H was on the ballot, if you'll remember, is another time when Santa Clarita did not proactively go after the money. So what's happening with Measure H is we're going to be sending money down into the rest of Los Angeles, and the way the bill was written, a percentage of funds would go to your area based upon the homeless population within your area. Our area is not San Clarita Valley. It is San Clarita Valley plus the San Fernando Valley. And so there's about $2.2 million that's going to get distributed somehow. So now all of a sudden they're interested in this, okay? Because the horse is out, and now they're closing the barn door. So what they did was they gave the money. They gave property to the homeless shelter because in order to apply for some of the grants, the homeless shelter needed to be a year-round shelter. The problem is, and you probably saw it in the paper, the paper says, well, we don't have enough money for a year-round shelter. Well, what a surprise, okay, because as long as I can ever remember, from when the shelter was in the Via Princesa parking lot, which has to be 10 years ago, Tim Davis every time would say, oh, just give us another couple of years, we'll raise enough money to make this a permanent shelter. They've never had to do it. What surprised me the most was the current shelter on Drayton Street did not have running water, was not connected to the sewer system. It just seems to me, and it's been there now for what, 4 years, 5 years? And so we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But hopefully they're going to improve it, and then maybe they'll get some Measure H money or maybe not. I'm hoping that they've had some ad hoc committee meetings, which are invitation only. And I know that the Salvation Army's been invited. I hope they get invited to the next one. I'm also now on the board of directors of the Samuel Dixon Family Health Center. I'm going to be looking to go to those meetings for them. We're just going to see where and if we can drag some of that money back here. But I got to tell you what, at the most we're going to get back is a third of what we're sending down south. So it's not really cool. Now I'm about out of time. If anybody has any questions, I'll go for it. Otherwise, I'll be here afterwards. No, huh? Do we have anybody that wants?
The eminent domain, I thought they just involved the billboards.
No, this is it. No, what they did was they made these people an offer. And I know how they do this. They get you in a room and they say, "This is what we're going to offer you, and if you don't take it, we're going to take the land anyway." And when they did it to the Edwards Outdoor Advertising, they said, "Okay, we'll take it." They caved in, but evidently the people down here for Carusos did not. They hired an attorney instead. So now they started the process that would allow them to do eminent domain, but they haven't. They still have got to go through a process yet. And all they've done is start their process. But I think putting small businesses between Carusos and the little small businesses that are in that building, putting small businesses out of business is not what the city of Santa Clarita should be doing. This is supposed to be a business-friendly environment, and it seems to me it's not right now.
Is the billboard deal separate from the property?
Oh, you're talking about the billboard on the corner.
No, there were two billboards. One is on Caruso's property.
Yeah, on Caruso.
One is right there at Sierra.
They have to buy.
There were two billboards. So
They either have to buy the billboards, or they have to take them by eminent domain.
So this is a separate eminent domain for the property from the billboard.
I don't know, because it's all happening in closed session, and I don't know whether the guy in the corner has sold. I don't know whether the billboard company has sold. It's all in closed session. No one's going to tell us anything about it until it comes out. It's one of those deals. Remember, that's the kind of thing they can do in the back room. They can do realty deals without telling us about them until they're over. Do we have any public participants? No. None. Okay. So December, we're dark. I know that on the third Wednesday of the month, you probably have withdrawals by us not being here, but we're going to take a month off, and then we'll be back in January, and it's blank underneath there, because as fast as things are happening, who knows what's going to happen by January the 17th. So I want to thank all of you for choosing to come to the Canyon Country Advisory Committee, and I hope to see you back again next year. Thank you.